Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good. It's working. Let's see. Zoom is unable to detect my camera for some reason. I don't know why that is. Is that going to be a problem?
Not if you don't care. Do you want to keep it off YouTube then, or do you?
Doesn't matter to me.
All right.
I don't understand why it won't work. Should be fine.
You're on a different login than normal. I don't know if you knew
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to be, but there it is.
That could be why, but this, I'm okay with it as long as you are.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
All right, perfect. I'll go ahead and get the screen ready to share. All right, are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Anything you want to start with beforehand, or just go as normal?
Well, since we're not going to do next week, I can talk about this new Netflix movie that's coming out Wednesday.
Perfect. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome to the Raven to Critic Movie Review Podcast and our co-host Bob Zero. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone's a critic podcast.com. You can listen to us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Our social media handle is Critics Pod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. When we go live on YouTube, we will post to those sites letting you know we're live. You can also follow us on YouTube, like us, subscribe to us, and get notified for whenever we go live as well. Patreon.com/criticspod is the best way to support the podcast. And we have our TeePublic page over at ihatecritics.net. If you click on the TeePublic link, or just search Critics Pod at TeePublic. All right, let's jump right into the episode. It may actually be a short one. It may be long. I don't remember how long we recorded in the car, but we will be getting to that later on in the episode. But before we get to the meat of our episode, we are not going to record next week due to Halloween. So because of that, Sean, you're going to talk about a Netflix movie we did not have on the docket.
Yeah, there's a new movie coming out on Wednesday called The Good Nurse. It's actually a limited theatrical release right now, and it stars Eddie Redmayne and Jessica Chastain in a true story about one of the most prolific serial killers in America. Potentially, they don't know exactly how many people this guy killed because he killed essentially at random. He was a nurse who would inject a particular type of thing into IV bags that would cause people to go into shock and die. No one even knows really why he did it, just that he did it at 9 different hospitals, and they don't know how many people he is responsible for killing. There's just simply no way to determine it. This is the story of how he ended up getting caught. He goes to work at a hospital where Jessica Chastain works. Her character has a heart condition. She's got 3 more months until she actually has full health insurance. She could use a lot of help, and this guy is very helpful to her. And at first, their relationship it's never romantic. It's just very, very friendly, and he's very kind to her. And thus, when it comes time for the story to begin to unfold, and you see a couple of people who maybe shouldn't have died die, she starts to finally catch on that something is very off, and she knows she's not doing it. So clearly it's somebody else, and he's kind of the common denominator for the cops. The cops are played by Noah Emmerich and Nnamdi Asomugha, who's a former NFL star. And they're terrific. They've got amazing chemistry. That's saying something because I don't think Nnamdi Asomugha has ever actually acted before. I think this is a debut role for him. And he and Noah Emmerich, a terrific pairing. He really takes a lot from Noah Emmerich, and I think you can sense that Noah Emmerich is giving him a lot as a veteran actor. You've seen him in everything. If you don't know his face, or if you don't know his name, you certainly know his face. He's just fantastic in this, but everybody's really great. Jessica Chastain is tremendous as a single mom with a heart problem who's trying to be a nurse, and the physicality of doing that job, especially in the 3rd shift where she does it. And that pressure really adds a lot to also the fact that she's coming up against hospital leadership that really doesn't want anybody to talk about this. The hospital really doesn't want anybody to know that they've hired a guy who's got a past that may involve, well, doing this in other hospitals. Hospitals are so short staffed, and letting this guy in and letting him get to where he gets to, it reflects badly on the hospital, obviously. And so the hospital is not too eager to have this looked into, and thus she's up against a lot of different forces here. On top of which, she becomes a little bit afraid of him eventually, and just a lot of really terrific drama. But then it doesn't play out in any way you would expect. The final scenes are just three characters in a room having a very important conversation, and it's riveting.
That sounds amazing. So it comes out Wednesday on Netflix.
Yes, highly recommend. Everybody should check it out.
I can't wait. Love the cast already. All right, let's move on to the meat of our show, and we'll start with the big blockbuster, Black Adam.
Black Adam, which took in $67 million in the U.S. and over 130 million, I think, worldwide over the weekend. The best opening of The Rock's career, which good for him. And yeah, it looks like it's a franchise starter, it would seem. Hopefully, in the future, this franchise is much better than this movie. This movie is not bad, but it's certainly not good. It's in that very much of a middle ground of mediocre. I referred to it as a cinematic shrug in my written review, and that's pretty much like, yeah, whatever. That's what the entire movie's attitude is. Basically, he's Black Adam, or Teth Adam, as they call him in the movie. That's his historic name. He is the champion of a fictional Middle Eastern country called Kandak. And he's been imprisoned for 5,000 years after having destroyed much of Kandak trying to protect it. He's gotten the same powers essentially that Shazam had received in his movie. That's why he has the lightning bolt on his chest, but that's not really referred to in the movie. It's just something you sort of know if you've seen these movies. He's supposed to be kind of a bad guy, good guy, like he's a good guy, but he's bad because he kills people. That's a kind of a dynamic that plays out with him and Hawkman, played by Aldous Hodge, who's a good guy who thinks it's bad to kill people, which is good for him. But the thing about it is that this anti-hero stuff never really takes hold. The Rock is such a straight arrow, and that any type of anti-hero really just doesn't work on him. He doesn't have any shades of gray, and especially since the movie couches it in the fact that he's killing, essentially the same people who are, the regime in Iran right now, or just these evil people who are oppressing an entire country. It's hard, you're not supposed to feel bad for the people that he's killing, and it's hard to feel bad for them. They're just as much killers as he is. So the movie definitely messes up in terms of tone, because really I don't think anybody cares. This is directed by John Collette-Serra, who is an absolute Hollywood hack. He's exactly the guy you want to direct a movie that is going to be exceptionally mediocre.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, they've seen The Rock play these anti-hero roles before in wrestling. Mm-hmm. Why can't they translate that to the big screen?
Yeah, that's a good question. He's able to. I think a live crowd makes a big difference for how he can, turn a role into something. Like his Hollywood Rock run was one of the best, like, villain to hero or hero to villain stories and back to hero stories that's ever been told in professional wrestling. And that was filled with a lot of nuance here and there, and a lot of his wrestling career, when he went from being bad guys to good guys, that was again that anti-hero portion, and he was tremendous at it. Hollywood, but I think he's become incredibly risk averse when it comes to his Hollywood career. Very protective of what his brand is. He's this wonderfully sweet, happy guy on social media. He wants everybody to like him, and thus playing an anti-hero or even a villain just doesn't fit with who he is. They needed to do something with him where, and they teased something at the end that could have been a much more interesting way to play this character. But I think if you'd had him playing the General Zod
Oh wow.
Superman, that would have been a great way to introduce him as a character who can be both be an anti-hero villain, because Zod is a character. He was a bad guy, of course, but he was a bad guy who had a proper motivation for why he was the way he was. And The Rock, with his physicality up against Superman, and nothing against Michael Shannon. Michael Shannon gave that role all he had, but that would have been a great way to introduce a guy like The Rock, would be to have him as a full-on villain opposite a full-on hero like Henry Cavill's Superman.
He's gone full John Cena, hasn't he?
Seemingly, yes.
He won't go heel.
Yeah, pretty much.
Part of our audience has no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's fine. The best thing about this movie is Pierce Brosnan. He plays a character called Dr. Fate, which is a terrific name. And he has a clever sort of superhero gimmick. He's got an arc that is incredibly familiar, but also it works because he becomes very invested in it. He has some weight and some gravitas to what he does. And I mean, I appreciate what Aldous Hodge is doing too as Hawkman. He's not bad. He's just underwritten, I would say. Then there's Noah Centineo, who is this social media influencer, former Disney star, who plays the Atom Smasher. He's a character that grows really, really big. That's his thing. He just grows really, really big and then back to normal size. This kid, oh boy, he cannot act. He is a blank slate. It is I felt sorry for him. I cringed whenever he talked and it just felt very sorry for him. He's very much in over his head, and that's unfortunate.
That's hilarious. I mean, has anybody ever said the best thing about this movie was Pierce Brosnan, even in James Bond?
Probably not. He was great in The Matador.
That's fine. I guess that's true. Did anybody see that though, outside of critics?
Fair. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just mean-spirited today. Anything else? I mean, the cinematic shrug is, it's hard to talk about shrugs.
Yeah.
And we don't have much to talk about this week, so I'm doing what I can.
There's no real villain here. Like the villain they come up with eventually is such a non-character. The opening portion is introducing him and his backstory, where his son was initially supposed to be the champion, became the champion, but to save his dad's life, he gave him his powers, and then he got killed. So then Black Adam goes to kill who killed his son, and they take away his powers because he was using them for vengeance, and then he gets his powers back when he's resurrected, and blah blah blah. Then you bring in the Justice Society, which is the characters I just mentioned: Hawkman, Dr. Fate, another character named Cyclone, and Atom Smasher, and they come. And the middle portion of the movie is them fighting Black Adam. Black Adam, trying to kill the bad guys. The Justice Society trying to take him into custody so he can't hurt innocent people because they think he might. And then the last act is this, very unnecessary vacant villain coming in and just being pretty ineffectual and, ending. That's pretty much it. There's a post-credit scene that's got a lot of people talking. It's already on social media about who it is and what it's about. So I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything to tell you that Henry Cavill is back as Superman officially with this movie and with future Superman films. So good for him. I think that's a good move for Henry
Cavill. No shit. What else can he do?
He's not had much success in any other movies, so
no.
But he's been a pretty good Superman. I mean, we got to admit, from the perspective of this show, he's been a pretty terrific Superman.
100%. Do you think this? I mean, they've been making this movie for a long time. Do you think this is a lot of The Rock being too protective of it, and that they had to bring a hack director in to make it just a mediocre movie?
Yeah, I think certainly Rock doesn't. I don't know if he doesn't like to be challenged, I think he likes to be a collaborator, and he doesn't want to work with anybody who might be a visionary director anymore. I don't know. He's done it in the past. With he worked with Richard Kelly on Southland Tales, and that's certainly a visionary director. And he delivered a pretty great performance in that movie. So I would love to see him working with real directors who could actually push him towards something and push him to challenge himself. And this story needed a real director, a real screenwriter, a real editor, a real everything.
I mean, I know he's not running for president, but it almost feels like he's making this movie so that he could. It's just very safe and very, I don't know, like you said, protective of his image.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's not very protective of their image is Damien Leone. Either that or he's trying to create an image that I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but we went and saw Terrifier 2. Sean and I drove to Peoria, about an hour away from where we live. Should we put our initial response in right now and then come back?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right, hold on one second. Okay, we're back. We didn't obviously listen to it live. We just inserted it into the podcast. So, but how are you feeling about Terrifier 2 now that a few days have passed?
I'm even more impressed and really admiring this movie, especially the when I was writing about it today, and my review is now up, and you can find it at Podcast Sean on Twitter, and I'll post it to our Facebook page as well. What I came away with most was just that the metatextual humor in this movie is so strong. It's quite a funny movie when it tries to, and funny in a way that doesn't take away from the horror at play. It's such a well calculated and well put together movie that the humor, it works alongside the traditional final girl horror story that's going on, and of course that over the top obscene gore in the movie. But we talked about a little bit in the car, and I just love the scene where there's a human head used as a candy bowl, and how Terrifier, Art the Clown, answers the door of a house where he's just murdered 2 people. He's got this human head filled with candy. He's handing it out, and the kids and the parent who's with them is just really impressed by it. Like, wow, that's a really cool prop that really looks like a real human head. And of course, we know that it is. They don't, but it's such a perfect metatextual comment on how we've just normalized extreme violence when we're celebrating Halloween. We normalize death. We normalize these types of extremes. And this movie challenges that by taking that notion to its most extreme idea by, this is what you enjoy. Well, here's the full breadth of what you're enjoying. The actual destruction of a human being completely mutilated and destroyed. And it's not that this movie is anti itself or anti Halloween. It's just that it's making a sort of a comic observation about how we've normalized that stuff. And I really, really like that. There's several scenes that are like that appear in this movie that make that comment. And again, the main guy, David Michael Howard, I think his name is, playing Art the Clown. He's just phenomenal. His physicality, the way he acts with his eyes and that ridiculous smile. It's like he's so well in control of his own physicality and his own physical presentation that he becomes both terrifying and absurdly hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, I can't. Again, I said it a lot during the car ride home, but I can't believe how much I enjoyed this. We both definitely came into this movie ready to not like it. Maybe not, that might not have been our intent, but it was definitely ready to debunk it. And we got rid of that mindset right away. And then I even texted my brother, who's a big movie fan, and I was like, Terrifier 2 is actually really, really good. And he's like, fuck that clown movie, I'm not gonna go see it. He's doing the same thing I was doing, as well, but we went and saw it just for the podcast for shits and giggles. It was a week, and I'm glad it really is. I didn't think a movie could be this. A horror movie could start a new franchise like this and be this much entertaining. Not in the way. I mean, you have franchises that start like The Conjuring and whatever, but this is a slasher. Like it's an out of the Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, idea, and it's new and it somehow works. It's weird. I don't know how he did it, but he certainly did, and I can't recommend it enough. It really is fun. It's not for everybody.
No, definitely not. Like it, we cannot underplay the gore here. The gore is severe. It is if you have a weak stomach, you could become sick watching this. This movie goes to an extraordinary extreme in terms of the presentation of violence. Like at one point, he's basically starting to eat one of his victims, who looks like she is already dead from what he's already done to her. And another character walks in, and the victim is still kind of alive. And it is a tremendous jump scare, but there's blood everywhere. She's been cut open badly. Her brain is on display. Like this movie goes there in a big, big way. And if that's a problem for you, stay away, because this is not going to go well for you. The people who probably underestimated this movie are the ones they're talking about in the Hollywood Reporter story about people, throwing up at screenings and walking out. I can definitely understand why you did that, why that happened, because I was this movie goes there in a big, big way, but it goes there in a big, big way again because of that metatextual commentary on the normalization of violence and the way that what is it that you're celebrating when you're celebrating these types of killers. There's a character, the younger brother of the main girl. He wants to dress up like Art the Clown for Halloween, and his mom and his sister call him out for it, saying that this guy killed 9 people and his body's missing. He might still be out there, but on top of that, you're celebrating a person who murdered 9 people. And at the same time, you and I were talking about this Dahmer thing on Netflix and how there are probably going to be Dahmer costumes this year because that thing was so popular. And that is essentially, yeah, that is really gross and disgusting that people don't take that into account. And Terrifier, as much as it's not a movie that's very serious in any way and not trying to make many serious points, at the very least, it's throwing that in your face. At the very least, throws that idea of violence in your face and forces you to kind of look yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, okay, that maybe I'm taking this a little bit too far.
Yeah, and I'd even argue that one, I think had we gone to like Arby's before the movie, we might have gotten sick. We went to a slightly classier restaurant before we saw the movie. And at the same time, I think if you're someone who's not sure about gore and you want to give it a shot, if you could make it 10 or 15 minutes in, eventually you get desensitized to it, sort of. It's just so much of it that it's not as effective as it was early on. But at no point is it annoying. It's just kind of like, it's more neat in a way. I don't know if that's the right word, but impressive, I guess, is kind of what they do with the gore. I can't say enough. The way they take this killer and make him wholly original while still hanging out in the same vein as a Freddy Krueger or a Jason or a combination of the two. And make it more brutal. Yeah.
Great point. Yeah, and the way that he operates is logical from his perspective. Like I so often get so annoyed about the things that we're asked to believe about killers. About the things they do before or after they kill someone. And here, Art the Clown goes in and of course he's fucking with him, but then he's going to kill him right away. He's not going to fuck around about it. He's going to get it done. And he's going to do it in the most brutal way possible. And then he's going to play because that's what he does. Murder is his art form, if you will. And he's going to toy with the victims and toy with their bodies and whatnot. And it makes sense from his perspective that he would do these things because they establish that as an aspect of the character. So what I hate about Halloween is they never settle that as an aspect of Michael Myers, that he plays around with his victims after he's done with them. That's just something we're asked to believe. And here we're not asked to believe that, we're just told that. And I appreciate the directness of this character.
And I'm curious if, this franchise does continue, if Damien Leone holds on to all of it and does it every time, or if he hands it over eventually, like Wes Craven did, like Sean Cunningham did, like John Carpenter did. I would hope he can hold on to the reins, and then there's never a remake. It can never be $100 million movie. It never will be. I don't care how good, or you'd have to take all the gore guts out of this movie in order to make it make money.
This is not going to be a 4-quadrant film that your grandparents go to see that pushes it over $100 million. Never going to happen. But they are expanding to 1,000 screens this weekend, which is pretty neat for this movie. And certainly at least will expand this movie. I think if it lands in the $20 to $25 million range, I think that would be pretty good for this movie. I don't know what the budget is, but if they can push this thing to 20 million, which it looks like they potentially could, that's pretty remarkable considering how insanely graphic this movie is.
And that would be an amazing box office for them. And I do think this is a movie that will stick around. I'm not a big enough horror fan to watch this over and over again. Like I said, if I ever see it again, it's because I'm showing my daughter or something like that when she's a little older. But that would be it. I'm not going to watch this on my own because it's too long. I do think it is a little fat. But I still, that horror crowd is going to watch this movie every year. And I think it's going to do really well on demand and later on Amazon or whatever else. So kudos to them.
Yeah. If you're wondering maybe where this lands in terms of the best movies of the year, obviously I think both Pearl and X are better movies in terms of just the artistry of what Ty West and what he does with those two films. This doesn't certainly come close to that, but if top 15, top 20 movie of the year, I think absolutely. I admire this movie more the further I get away from it. So that's something.
It's entirely possible. It's hard for me to say without going through a list because this has been a pretty phenomenal year in movies. That said, this is a pretty memorable experience. The fact that we made the road trip, we haven't really seen each other but twice since COVID. So, I'm throwing that part as the viewing experience. It was a fun car ride there and back. But it definitely is going to be one of the more memorable experience, a top 5 memorable experience. But in terms of top 10 movie, probably not. And it's just such a good year so far, and it's not even over yet. So we'll see.
By the way, do check out A24 Screening Room this week. They're showing 4 of their best horror movies in their very own online screening room where you can buy tickets to watch online live with an audience. I believe they're showing Green Room is one of them, and Hereditary is another one, and maybe Midsummer. I'm not sure, but yeah, there's going to be 4 of them, and they're showing them during the Halloween week in their own very own A24 screening room.
That's awesome. And A24 does the best horror movies they've owned the last decade, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
All right. Speaking of owning the decade or a decade, our undisputed classic is Bud Abbott and Lou Costello Meet Frankenstein. Did I bore you?
No, I love this movie.
Awesome.
This is a great movie. What a perfect, I never would have guessed, but what a perfect marriage of ideas here. Abbott and Costello and the MGM monsters really actually go very well together. The idea here is that Bud and Lou work somewhere where they take packages in and deliver packages, and they deliver the bodies of Frankenstein and Dracula to this museum where they come back to life. Dracula is trying to put Frankenstein back to life as his slave and wants to find a brain to put in Frankenstein's body. The Wolfman, played by Lon Chaney, is trying to stop them, and caught in the middle are Bud and Lou, and especially poor Lou. for this great sort of, I mean, you can sense the Warner Brothers cartoon influence in this, the
Oh,
repeated
for sure.
these repeated gags where he's the only one who sees them. And the various ways that the various clever ways the movie comes to keep Bud from finding out what's going on, and for poor Lou just to be like just stuck in a room with Frankenstein and Dracula is very, very entertaining, and it never gets tired. You know, it's only 81 minutes, so that helps. But the energy of Bud and Lou is just so great. They have amazing chemistry, of course, because they've been doing this together for years since vaudeville, and their dynamic is just so strong. And they know how to get laughs, and, and they get all of them in this movie. It works every single time. I think I'm trying to think of which one was my favorite. I think there's one with the Wolfman late where they're in the forest and he thinks that Bud is the Wolfman wearing in a mask, but it's the real Wolfman trying to get him, and he keeps kicking the Wolfman and pushing him and shoving him and telling him to take off the mask. It's a bit that's probably been done a million times since, but this was probably the inception of that bit, and it works really, really well.
Oh, yeah, I love the bit with the hotel room with the Wolfman. He just kept opening the room and going back in there. And my absolute favorite part about the whole movie is that, I mean, the Wolfman and Dracula and the monster never, like, they're playing it straight. They're not degrading what they've done before. You know, they're the same characters in this movie, and like you said, it's a perfect marriage. The reason it works, it makes no sense why it works. It just does. I mean, it's probably because of Abbott and Costello. They have such good chemistry together that they can just have anybody go in and out of their world. But I mean, these Bela Lugosi Lanchi, they're taking this seriously. They're not trying to go down to the level of Abbott and Costello. They're playing their characters and they're playing them perfect. And I just love how watchable it is. It's something that I feel like if my 10-year-old had come in and watched me watching it, he would have stuck around and just kind of started watching it too, because it's surprisingly watchable for a movie from the 40s or whatever year this was made. I think it kind of holds up. I mean, largely due to the influence that it's had on cartoons since then. But I thought it was really, really watchable.
I was impressed too, because this is the reputation of this was like the Universal monsters are on the downside of their careers. They're on their way out in terms of their popularity. They are thrown together with Abbott and Costello as a way to just kind of find something to do with them that might make money. And they turn around and they make a really good movie out of it. Like they didn't cut corners, they didn't cheat, they didn't make Dracula, Wolfman, or Frankenstein look like fools. They took them seriously. They made Bud and Lou the butts of the jokes the entire way through, and that it turns out to be just this perfect marriage of comedy and monsters. It works because everybody's playing their part as they should. Nobody's out of character at all in this movie. It makes perfect sense. The best gag, though, my favorite gag came at the end of the movie. There's a cameo at the end of the movie. It's just a voice cameo, but it is awesome. I recognize that voice right away. It's one of the most recognizable voices in the history of film, and just the best joke in the movie. And it really sends the movie off in just the best possible way.
Absolutely. I'd highly recommend people go and check this one out. It's I don't know if you can call it a classic. I'm going to call it a classic. It's a fun classic. It's not one you hold up there against Casablanca, but it is just a lot of fun, and I think you should go see it.
I think it's so much better than the reputation that it's been given as this sort of desperate idea to keep these monster movies alive. I think it's so much better than that. These are a group of people who came together, were kind of brought together by the studio, forced together by the studio, and they didn't half-ass it. They didn't play it off like this is just something to toss off and get out of the way. They took it seriously. They married what they did, each side, and and made it work, and they made it work brilliantly. I think this is the kind of movie that should be considered a classic and should be remembered far better than it is.
100%. Anything else on Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein?
No.
I mean, I'd argue the worst thing about it is the title, because Frankenstein's not in it. It's just a monster.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. 1992, we had several movies come out. I think Dr. Giggles was one of them. Let me see if I can see. I don't know if I'll be able to do this. I'm sharing my screen. Dr. Giggles, Frozen Assets, Pure Country, Zebrahead. But
yeah, I forgot to watch Dr. Giggles, unfortunately.
That's okay. But we've both seen Reservoir Dogs enough times to talk about it again. The debut of Tarantino as a director.
And it's brilliant. You know, this is pure Tarantino. It's the perfect precursor to what he came to do in Pulp Fiction. It's this, you know, loud, violent introduction to what he does so well. His own sort of beat that he plays that seemingly no one else can play. This work of homage that is both homage, but it's very much its own thing. A heist gone wrong leaves a bunch of guys trying to figure out who betrayed them, all in this one location, playing out with shifting dynamics of power, who's in charge, who's on what side, the secrets that are built in brilliantly, and just these wonderfully drawn characters who each have just this very pronounced personality. The one that always stands out for me when I watch it again and again is Harvey Keitel, who, you know, he is the most, like, he's got the biggest reputation of anybody in the movie coming in as the tough guy, you know, supporting player. And what strikes me so much every time I watch Reservoir Dogs is as being a violent killer, he's very kind and compassionate towards Tim Roth's character. He very much cares about this guy and whether or not he's going to live or die. And you know, yeah, you wouldn't expect that. You wouldn't expect that out of these tough guy characters. But he brings that dynamic to this character, and it gives him a whole other, you know, perspective from every other character in the movie, from Buscemi's character, from Madsen's character, even from Roth's character. He's just a little bit different just because of that. And I really appreciate that, among many things I appreciate about this movie.
Yeah, just a full-blown classic. We'll be talking about it for years. I mean, I think if you're into movies, you need to be into Tarantino. You should at least give him a chance. This is one that is kind of a must-see. But then again, everything he has done is pretty much a must-see as well. All right. That kind of is our show. There is no show next week. However, while we have a little bit of time, do you have time for Flick Chart?
Sure.
All right, let's get a few rounds in until we get annoyed. And we will start with Fantastic Mr. Fox and Scream 3.
Fantastic Mr. Fox. Scream 3 is awful.
Daylight, Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder.
I don't hate Daylight. I know a lot of people do, but I'll go Days of Thunder as well. Rock of Ages, Insidious.
Insidious.
Absolutely. What else do we got? The Rules of Attraction, 27 Dresses.
27 Dresses. One of my favorite guilty pleasures.
Yeah, I'll go with you. Rules of Attraction. I remember liking okay when I saw it, but I haven't thought about it again since then. So, the Da Vinci Code, Out of Sight.
Out of Sight.
Easily. Pink Floyd, The Wall, Babes in Toyland.
Pink Floyd, The Wall.
Absolutely. Inside Llewyn Davis, and Then There Were None.
I've not seen And Then There Were None.
Inside Llewyn Davis, Fatal Attraction.
Inside Llewyn Davis by a lot.
Love that movie. Ghostbusters Afterlife, The Theory of
Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Touch of Evil, The Kingdom.
Touch of Evil. Great movie.
Fantastic. Master and Commander of the Far Side of the World, Serenity.
I like them both, but Serenity is shorter and more entertaining, so I'm going there.
Yeah, if I had to watch mine. Reservoir Dogs, Being John Malkovich.
Reservoir Dogs, but Being John Malkovich is an awesome movie.
Yeah. The Dead Zone, The Lobster.
I like The Lobster. I get in trouble for it. I get yelled at a lot by my friends. I tried to show The Lobster to some friends of mine. They became so enraged they turned it off before the ending, which is unfortunate for them because I like the ending.
Is that A24 or no?
Yeah.
I thought, yeah. I enjoy The Dead Zone, but The Lobster was so the original. I agree with that one. Jacob's Ladder, 1990, Major League 2.
I can't even remember if I like Jacob's Ladder or not anymore. It's totally slipped my mind.
And we watched it as a classic 2 years ago.
I know. I don't remember. I don't remember anything about it. That's how much I loved it. Apparently,
The Major League 2.
Yeah, I remember laughing at Major League 2.
I saw Major League 2 before I saw Major League, so I have a soft spot in my heart for it. Dragnet, The Killer Elite.
I've never seen The Killer Elite, but I want to. That's cool. That's a cool title.
I've never seen it either.
James Caan and Robert Duvall. That looks cool.
Seems like I can't miss. Sure, I can. Dragnet.
There's a reason we haven't heard of it. So
most likely. Dragnet, All the Right Moves.
I don't have much of a memory of All the Right Moves. I'll never forget Dragnet.
I love All the Right Moves.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you see Tom Cruise's penis and I can't remember that, then how do you remember anything? So maybe Dragnet's better.
I don't know that Dragnet's better. I don't know if either of them are very good, but I remember Dragnet just because I like Tom Hanks. I like funny Tom Hanks, and Aykroyd is so very much in character. My sister and I still will reference the Virgin Connie Swales to this day.
And I really enjoy Craig Nelson as a football coach. He does that really well. Let's flip it and see who wins. And the winner is that was it. Tom Cruise of 2 Mustangs. Under the Tuscan Sun, Fever Pitch.
Fever Pitch.
Red Eye, Father of the Bride.
Red Eye. By a lot.
Beach Street, Juice Bigelow, Milk for the Day.
Beat Street.
Don't even know what that is. Battle of Los Angeles, Tootsie.
Fishing with Gandhi. Tootsie is insufferable. It's insufferable.
Never seen it. And that's the good thing is I'll never have to because I don't see ever recommending that as a classic. 30 years is come and gone. I think I'm safe from Tootsie. The Lake House, Lars and the Real Girl.
Lars and the Real Girl.
The Intruder, The Sound of Music.
I'm trying to remember The Intruder. I think I saw it. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter because I'm picking Sound of Music, but
Yeah.
I love The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music is an absolute classic and everybody needs to watch it.
So, Nosferatu, The Seventh Seal.
The Seventh Seal.
It's not really fair. The Motorcycle Diaries, Jaws.
Jaws.
Psycho Assassins.
Psycho.
Are you sure? Between the Folds.
Never heard of that. Actually, I've never heard of either of those movies.
The Expendables, Blade Trinity.
For fuck's sake. I couldn't care less. Where are you going?
Man, they're both massive misses with low bars to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Not going anywhere. Follow the Bride Part 2, The Sting.
The Sting. I don't love The Sting, but it's certainly better than Follow the Bride Part 2.
Right. If you put The Sting up against a good movie, it loses every time, but it can win the mediocre ones. An Angel at My Table.
No, never heard of it.
The Gift 2000 or The Interpreter.
The Gift. Fantastic movie.
Which one? This is the one with Shane Raimi did.
Yeah, this is Kate Blanchett, Katie Holmes, Keanu Reeves.
I think you like
awesome film.
There's another Gift, right? With Jason Bateman. That's really good as well.
Yeah, I think so.
No, I love The Sting. That's one of my. I love that movie. All-star cast too.
Yeah, phenomenal.
X-Men Apocalypse, Friends with Benefits.
They both suck. I think Friends with Benefits is probably shorter, so go there.
Yeah. All right, now you have to answer. X-Men Apocalypse, Congo.
Congo's funnier. not because it intends to be.
The Apartment, To Die For.
The Apartment, but I love To Die For.
Yeah. Scream 3, What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Only because Scream 3 is terrible.
In the Heart of the Sea, The Addams Family.
Addams Family. In the Heart of the Sea is pretty big disappointment.
Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, The Strongest Man in the World.
Never heard of Strongest Man in the World.
Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, Titanic.
Is that that's a different Titanic, isn't it?
It has to be. 1996. The good one was in 98, right?
I thought so. Or 97. That's certainly not the same
It
one.
doesn't look, it's not.
I've never seen it, so I've never seen this one, I don't think.
Red Heat, Superman 4.
Red Heat. What the fuck?
Be Kind, Rewind, Lego Batman.
Be Kind, Rewind.
That's fun. But you're going to look at that. Epic Movie, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
10 Cloverfield Lane. Fuck, epic movie. And everyone involved with it.
Really? You got to see that?
See what?
You actually saw Epic Movie?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, it was in
Did
theaters.
it go to the theaters? Oh,
it did.
Christ. I hope this one's right to find the video.
Yeah.
All right. The Irishman, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I mean, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is so bad that I'd rather watch 3.5 hours of The Irishman.
I like that. I know it's long, but
I'm not a fan. I think it's Scorsese's least, honestly.
he's got some bad ones.
I mean, his least is better than most, best. So
RoboCop 2, High Noon.
High Noon.
The Score, The Italian Job.
The Score.
Tinker Tailor, Soldier Spy, Rock and Roll.
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
21, The Brady Bunch movie.
I couldn't care less.
Just because of the casting. I did it. One I was having a Brady Bunch movie. Mighty Joe Young with what looks like a 7 cover. Or Return of the Living Dead 3.
Return of the Living Dead 3.
Ronin in the next 3 days.
Next 3 days.
Power of the Dog.
Oh, Power of the Dog by a lot.
Manchester by the Sea and a stage.
Manchester by the Sea.
That's a good job of it. But it's awesome. The Hunger Games, Terry the Ugly.
The Hunger Games.
Just want something to end on. Spy Game. Spy Game, The Time to Kill.
I worry that A Time to Kill hasn't aged well. Spy Game is good. I had a big emotional reaction to A Time to Kill when I saw it. Where are you going?
Time to Kill, but I have the same theory. I mean, I feel like it's too. I think they're like upper mediocre. I think they're not good, but they're not bad. Both
Yeah.
of them. But I mean, I read the book when I was a kid, and just I'm worried if we ever had to watch it, how good it is. So, The Cell, A Serious Man.
Serious Man.
Fun, Fancy, and Free.
I don't think that's a movie. I think it's a short.
All right. Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings, Predators.
I really like Predators. I'm going Shang-Chi. I think it's more entertaining, but I do admire that Predators movie.
I quit. Have a good night. I'll see you.